All right, Browns fans, Rufio here. Today we're going to be looking at the Browns' running game, some things that are going well and some things that are going not so well for us so far this season. So here we've got the Seattle game. Seattle has an 8-man front. They've walked extra safety up into the box. Browns only have 7 blockers, all 5 linemen and 2 tight ends in the game, and we're in this little pistol set. But despite the numbers disadvantage in the box, the Browns are able to turn this run into a big play for Nick Chubb. And as we roll this forward, this is something I'll never get sick of, is watching 24 just pop through the line with a head full of steam and just get a big gain on the ground. Just love the way Nick Chubb approaches this game. He says almost nothing. He does almost everything. You just got to respect a guy that runs and plays as hard as he does and doesn't seem to take any credit for it whatsoever. So as we come to the end zone angle here, we can break down the kind of specific blocks on this play. So I believe this is an outside zone play, and we're going to have a full block that's either kind of a call between the 2 linemen who are tasked with making that block, or it's going to be something that we kind of call in from the sidelines. But on outside zone, what we're looking for is to get horizontal displacement of these linemen, right? We want to stretch them wide, get them moving horizontally, and then if we can seal them inside, great, and Chubb can just run around everybody. Or if we can't seal them inside, hopefully we get some of them running and we seal on the backside, and then Chubb kind of stretches the play and then cuts it downhill, finds that open gap, finds that little crease between 2 defenders, and can just hit that hole with a head full of steam and get what he can get. So on the front side of the play, we're going to see tight end here out reaching for that outside linebacker, and that's exactly what happens here. Next block over is going to be the tackle, Greg Robinson. He's going to be one-on-one with this defensive end. Because of Seattle's alignment here, you can see their linebackers are really shifted over to the right. This is not able to in zone blocking, we want to get those combination blocks, those 2-on-1s where we can. But because of this alignment here with the linebackers way outside, this tight end really can't waste time getting inside on this block and then trying to redirect and get way outside. That's just not athletically going to happen for a human being of that size. So I believe this is going to be Harris here. He's got to leave to go block right away. He's got to get out, and that leaves us singled up. So it's a tough block for Greg Robinson to do this singled up without a helper, without a teammate to help him make this kind of combination block on 94. The way Alex Gibbs teaches this, the zone guru, is that outside foot is the first step, and on the second step, boom, you're hitting with a 3-prong punch, and that punch is going to be the outside hand, the play side hand here, Robinson's left hand. It's going to be the helmet, and then it's also going to be the backside arm. And when you are singled up, right, when you do have a solo block, that backside arm should be like swinging really wide, almost like a boxer's hook, right? It's almost like a big swooping arm, and that and the left hand should hit together. And that backside arm, what it does, it loses you some leverage so that you don't have as much power to push this guy back, but it creates some safety, right? Because you, as Robinson, as we watch here, with that lateral step, he is really hoping that 94 stretches with him, right? Robinson's stretching outside. You're hoping that defensive end sees your helmet going that way and also reacts that way horizontally. And that club on the backside, that kind of hook on the backside, is just there for safety in case 94 is on a stunt or something inside. You can kind of catch him with that backside arm and then hopefully kind of turn with him, move your feet, and not get that holding call, but just turn him back inside. On this play, I'm not sure if Robinson, just isn't good at that technique, doesn't have it. The Browns don't like to use it. Or if, in this case, he doesn't actually know that he doesn't have a combination blocker. But regardless, he gets beat pretty bad here because 94 is able to stunt back inside. And that is not what we want as the Browns. We don't want untouched defenders, meeting Chubb right at the point of attack. In any event, as we move further back in this play to the back side of the play, we're going to get, here is the fold block. So typically in a zone scheme, the center and the, whoever the center's combination block is with, they're going to get up to the Mike linebacker, in this case 54. Well, we can see, again, if we pinch down on this nose tackle here, we're going to have that same problem where Bitonio can't really get into him, help double team, and then redirect out to get a quick linebacker. It's just a lot to ask from a blocker. Similarly, if we just go and we fan this out just kind of like we did here, where the outside guy goes and gets the linebacker, the inside guy gets the down lineman, this is going to be a really tough block for Treader to try to reach this nose tackle, cut him off, and also not let him penetrate in the backfield. Because this human right here typically is going to outweigh Treader by 50 pounds. So he's at a disadvantage here. So the Browns' call is a fold. Right? Instead of a fan, they're going to fold. And that means Bitonio is going to block down. Treader is going to pull around him and look for that Mike linebacker on the other side. This gives us better matchup, and it gives us better blocking angles to be able to execute this play. And the fact that we're seeing this kind of intricacy from the Browns in the running game, I think is a really good sign, right? It shows that we understand how we want to attack the other team, where we're weak, how certain blocks will break down and not be as strong. And we're communicating that. We're getting on the same page to make adjustments and beat the other team, hopefully, more easily. All right, so we can see as I roll this forward that Bitonio is going to have this great down block here, sealing that nose tackle inside. Treader's going to pull out. He's going to be on track to get 94. That kind of mess of Greg Robinson's block gets in his way, but if it wasn't there, he would have a clean shot at 54, the Mike linebacker. So on the backside of this play, we are going to see kind of some of the difficulty of doing that kind of fan block, right? So the next combination down, we've got Hubbard, we've got Cush on this down lineman here, and then they're going to climb up to try to get 50. And this is a tough block, and we can see Cush knows right away that he doesn't really have time to hang in there too tight on that block. He's just going to try to leave immediately and just kind of leave that backside hand, in this case his right hand, to just kind of just give him a little jab, push him inside, and let Hubbard get a chance to kind of catch up there. Because Cush knows he has to get around this nose tackle and then to the play side of 50 to try to cut him off. And this is kind of the difficulty of that fan block is that, it's really hard to get through sometimes to get up to the second level to hit these linebackers. And that's something one of these teams like Seattle loves to do, is just put a lot of beef up front, right? Get really heavy guys on the line of scrimmage and just clog lanes and let those linebackers go run free. I think Hubbard does a really good job in this play. To me, this is the healthiest Hubbard had looked in a while, so I hope he's coming back to full strength. But you can see the jump he gets on that play. He's the first one out of the stance and is really able to make an athletic move to catch up to 72 and kind of get to the play side of him, get his hat to the play side. This is exactly what you want on the backside of the play. Again, rolling backward, now we can look at the tight ends block. I believe this is Pharaoh Brown. I think on this play, the idea was to leave the backside end unblocked, which is typically something you do in outside zone. We want to leave that end man on the line of scrimmage unblocked, and the quarterback should make a bootleg fake or keep the ball or run play action or do something to kind of hold this guy. And that's on the quarterback to run 3 hard steps out the backside of this fake and not kind of snap his head around and look and see where the ball's going. That is also on the offensive coordinator to make sure that this defensive end is not crashing down line of scrimmage and that the defensive end believes that the quarterback is a threat to bootleg and keep the ball or play action or something like that. On this play, Clowney really isn't buying that, right? So Clowney rushes down the field and is really just holding our tight end here into the play. You can see the tight end try to disengage. This could have been a defensive holding call. He tries to disengage because he's still trying to get up to block 42 here and leave 90 unblocked on the backside of the play. But at some point, he notices Chubb coming inside and just says, you know what, I'm being held here. I'm just going to stay here and box out and keep Clowney out of the way. And sometimes when you don't have the physical, ability to overpower your opponent, that's really all we need is just this kind of cutoff, right? And the fake isn't enough. It isn't great by Baker. And then I thought that the 2 steps out of this were not hard enough, right? I'd like to see another 1 hard step and maybe not whipping his head around quite so quickly to see where the run's headed. In any event, those do enough to hold the safety 42 here, who I believe has that contained responsibility. So we hold him just enough. And as we watch, Chubb is going to cut this downhill, and that's just enough to hold 42 out of position and give Chubb the running room he needs. All right, so the running back's job in this play, first of all, we can see Chubb kind of peeking over Baker's left shoulder here. I'd love to see him peek over the right as well. That way you can't tell which way the zone run is coming. If defenses can kind of pick up on that kind of thing and see, oh, running back's eyes lead us to the ball, that's obviously bad for the Browns. However, the running back's job in this play is to basically receive the ball and then make a good and quick read. And he's going to read the down lineman to the play side of the play. So he's going to read those linemen. If we can kind of get outside of them and seal everybody off and Chubb can bounce this ball around the outside, that's exactly what he's going to do. But most of the time that doesn't happen on these plays, and there's going to be a time where these outside guys, we have to kick them out, and then on the backside we're looking to slow somebody down and we're looking to create a seam that way. And so Chubb's reading this to this, and he's going to cut it downhill wherever he finds that running room. Typically, the aiming point for outside zone is the outside leg of that tight end. I want us to watch that this outside leg of this tight end is about a yard inside the hash here. Watch where Chubb makes his cut. We often talk about this as a cut back, but really it is a cut downhill. It is a cut down the pipe. And we see that Chubb gets the ball, makes a read because he's got 94 right on his face. If you watch where Chubb plants to cut, that cut happens at about a yard and a half inside that hash. That is exactly the aiming point of that running back. And as he comes downhill, we notice on TV, right, this looks like a cut back. This is actually a cut downhill. This is straight down the pipe. So that's a running back's job, is read the outside. If you can bounce it, run around everybody, get outside, get into space. But if you can't, you put your foot in the ground, you come dip right down the pipe, you get downhill, and you get past that line of scrimmage before you make another move. And that's exactly what Chubb does. As he clears the line, he sees the safety 30 coming, he sees the daylight here, and this is just talent. This is just 24 doing what 24 does, finding that running room, shaking defenders off in the backfield, and making big gains. All right, so here we have another play from that Seahawks game. We're going to see, frankly, some pretty bad blocks on this game, on this play, rather. We get some bad blocks from, our blockers, but I'm just trying to illustrate with this that, we don't need to be perfect, right? We don't need to play perfect. We don't need to just be able to physically dominate our opponent in the trenches or just have great athletes on the line. The guys that we have, when they are healthy and when they understand what to do, they are good enough to win in this league. And really, I think that's one of our major problems right now is we don't always hit our assignments. In any event, this play, I'm going to pull this forward. It's going to be, I believe this one is, we think of this more as a sweep than a zone play, but you get a similar action with pulling guards. And on this play, we're going to motion Jarvis down into the line of scrimmage, into the box to block. I don't particularly like this, that we do this with Jarvis. He is a team player, and he'll do anything that we ask him to. But when you motion him in here, it's pretty much a dead giveaway that this is a run. In fact, I would really love the Browns to run some play action fakes off of this look. I think it would be a very believable fake, and we'd really fool some people because we almost never run the ball when we have this motion happen. Okay, so here we are from the end zone angle. We see Jarvis motion inside the tackle. What we're going to get here on the play side is down blocks from the tight ends. Instead of that kind of reach block trying to get outside, seal everybody in, we're going to get down blocks. We're going to double team here, and we're going to go up to the Mike linebacker with these tight ends. Then we're going to get more down blocks on the front side of the play. Whoever's got those good blocking angles. So here it's Hubbard and Treader are going to block down, and then the next guy over from them is going to pull around the edge. So that's going to be, in this case, Cush and Bitonio are going to pull to the play side, look to kick out people, block kind of whatever they see, whoever flows over there. On the back side of the play, we have kind of a tough block from Greg Robinson. He's got to cut this defensive end off, and that defensive end is reduced inside, and so he kind of has a head start. It's just a really hard thing to do, and to make matters worse, you notice on the snap of the ball, that defensive end is headed inside. You can't tell if he maybe he had a stunt or something on where he's going to loop around, or maybe he just read this play very quickly, knew we were going to run. But that makes Robinson's job very difficult to kind of be able to reach him and seal him off, outrun him and push him back toward the backside of the play. So as I roll this forward, we're going to see these tight ends here. They should be combo blocking up to the second level. I think, Harris maybe should have had this guy here, but just get shed, right? Like just straight up, this is like a textbook shed the block and go make a play. I don't know if Harris was expecting, Pharaoh Brown to be in this block a little bit longer, to stay in there with him, to knock 94 inside. Maybe it's a chemistry issue there, which, again, we got a first-year coach, first-year coordinator, first-year line coach. Both of these guys, their first year on the team, right? So everything's new, and, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, how we can kind of reduce the effects of that. But in any event, Harris just gets shed. Pharaoh Brown does a good job of getting up to that mic, but 94 is supposed to be blocked at this point and is, again, wreaking havoc in our backfield. So inside of them, we have Hubbard doing a pretty good job here, gets that down block. He's got a really easy blocking angle, just kind of locks this guy up and seal him to the backside. It's exactly what you want from that down block. Cush is going to pull around and look for, kick out that outside linebacker. Gets out there, puts a hat on a hat, just kind of covers him up and gives Chubb the ability that, if he was wanting to bounce that run outside, he could, or cut it down inside of him, he could do that as well. That's a great job by Cush. Moving even further back, Treader's got a rough block here. Treader, again, is probably outweighed by about 50 pounds on this nose tackle, if not more. He's got a pretty good angle because he's on a one technique, but all Treader's got to do is kind of just slow this guy down and keep him to the backside of the play. So as we roll this forward, Treader does an okay job of that, just kind of grabbing him and creating that drag, right? Once he blocks him, that nose tackle can take Treader and move him a little bit, drive him back into the play. But Treader does just enough to slow him down to get that arm tackle on Nick Chubb. And if you're trying to tackle Nick Chubb with arm tackles, good luck. I'll live with that any day. Even further back to the backside of the play, we've got Bitonio pulling around, who isn't supposed to block 94, but sees him as the most dangerous threat as he gets over there and has to cover him up. And he does a great job of that. Takes him head on, knocks him out of the play, and gives Chubb a cutback lane. And then finally, Jarvis with that cutoff block. He's had to motion into the formation because of this guy here. Again, Seattle was doing this weird thing with their linebackers playing them way out wide. So if Jarvis is out in the slot, that linebacker can just kind of blitz off the edge and get Chubb in the backfield. So we motion Jarvis in and just try to tell him, slow that guy down. Don't let him penetrate and pursue down that line of scrimmage. Jarvis, again, is not a physical match for this guy, so he is pretty quickly able to shove Jarvis out of the way. Jarvis eventually just kind of gives up and tries to shove him and later regrets that. But he does enough, right? He does enough to slow this guy down. What I'm trying to illustrate with this play basically is that we don't need to be world beaters on the line, right? We don't need world-beating tight ends, world-beating offensive linemen. If we get the right people blocking their right people, we give Chubb holes, and that's really all he needs. So this run, despite all these blocks not going the way we wanted, this went for 6 yards, right? And that's more than enough for this offense to just keep the chains moving, keep us in good situations, and out of those third and longs. This is perfect, and even though each player wasn't able to execute maybe at the level you want, this is plenty good enough. All right, so this is the last play I'm going to show. This is from the Ravens game, and obviously we ended up doing pretty well in this game on offense, but this play was not one of those, not a contributing factor to that. So first thing we can see from this angle is that we cheat our tackle, right? Robinson is going to pull on this play, and his job is going to be to pull and kick out the end man on the line of scrimmage. We can see he's kind of cheated back, and he's also cheated to his right, to the area where he's going to go pull. As I flip to the end zone angle, we can even see this accentuated, right? Look at Robinson's split here on the left, and he's the one that's going to pull versus Hubbard's split here on the right. And then look at his stance, right? This is not a typical pass protection stance that Hubbard's in, where you're kind of more upright, sitting back, got that elbow and that knee. Robinson is really bent over, and just his posture looks kind of weird, right? And I think that's a giveaway, and I would try to coach that out of him. So we're not giving these plays away pre-snap. I think it's, the more that we can withhold what we're going to do so the defense doesn't know what's coming, the better. In any event, that's not the main issue on this play. The main issue on this play is that we simply blow an assignment. This is going to be, we call it power, you call it counter. I don't really care. It's a gap block scheme with a puller. That puller is going to kick out the end man line of scrimmage. Front side of the play, we want down blocks, and then we want to create a seam with those down blocks and a seam with the kick out, and then Chubb can run through it. So I'm not really sure what Hubbard was seeing on this play, if he just missed this linebacker walking up late. You can see that linebacker has a snap count. They know when the ball is going to be snapped, so they're able to time that walk up to be at the very last minute. But Hubbard on the play has this kind of, you see that little lean to the right there? That tells me that he thought his assignment was going to be outside. I don't know if he thought he was blocking this end man line of scrimmage. I don't know if he thought there was a linebacker out here, or I don't, I can't really put myself in his head. But that little lean to the right is definitely not what he wanted to do here. And by the time he tries to redirect back inside to block this guy, it's simply too late, right? He's past him. That's a block in the back. And to make matters worse, Robinson doesn't see Hubbard coming back there, runs straight into him, and they knock each other over. That's a tackle for loss, and it's embarrassment, right? This should never happen on an NFL field for a pro football team. And this, Browns fans, is really what I think. When we have problems on offense, it's things like this. It's not that we get beat individually. It's not that we can't hold our blocks forever and knock the other team, be the more physical team and knock them off the ball. When we don't understand our assignment and the adjustments that we have to make to that assignment to block the play up and just get a hat on a hat, that's when problems really start to arise for our offense. Because now if this is a first down run, now we're in 2nd and 13. Right? 2nd and 15. We're behind the chains. The other team knows we have to pass, and that's when we've exposed all of those weaknesses in pass protection, and then everything, can kind of crumble from there. All right, so I just want to finish off with this diagram to kind of talk about what I think is one of those issues that I'm seeing us start to iron it out, start to execute better. I hope we are fixing this, but I have here just names of some plays that you might be familiar with as a fan. We've got counter, we've got power, we've got a draw play, we've got duo, which the Browns, we've used it this year. We really loved it last year. We've got outside zone, inside zone, a pin and pull zone, and then a sweep. And these are just examples. I believe these are all plays that we run, that the Browns run. But really, the important idea here is that there's 7 different run concepts, right? And that might not seem like a lot. Sure, we can understand 7 run plays. That's not that big of a deal. It doesn't seem like that many. Well, if you understand 7 of these, right, and we want to run them both to the left and to the right, we wouldn't want to be predictable to the defense, would we? We've got to run them left and right. Now, all of a sudden, if you're offensive lineman, your responsibilities double. Because if I'm a left tackle, we run outside zone to me. That's very different than running it away from me, right? I have a different responsibility on that play. So now I've got to learn 2 things to do. Not only that, but if we run these plays with a tight end, now I've got to be able to run to that tight end, so strong, and then left or right, right? If I put that tight end on the left and on the right, I can move him around. Now, as a tackle, I've got to know, okay, we're running zone to me, to my left, and the tight end is with me. So I have to combo with this tight end, or I have this, certain assignment. And then we have to run it away. So the tight end is away from me, and now we're running it to me, but I don't have the tight end's help. How does that change my responsibility? And so on and so forth. And not only that, but if you run with 1 tight end, we run with 2, we run with none, right? You don't want to have 4 wides on the field. You never run the ball. You still have to be able to run the ball in every situation. So with those 2 tight ends, we have even more options, right? We can put both those tight ends to one side and run at those tight ends. We can put them to one side and run away from those tight ends, or we can put 1 tight end on either side. And each of those is going to change those responsibilities for each one of those offensive linemen. Well, and it doesn't just stop there, right? Not only do we have these different personnel options, but we also have to be able to run this against a 4-3 defense. We have to be able to run all this against a 3-4 defense. We have to be able to run against bear and nickel, right? And with just those 4 kind of simple defenses, simple kind of grouping defenses into those 4 groups, look at all these assignments that I would have to learn as an offensive lineman if we want to run all 7 of these plays. That's a lot to remember. it can sound easy to just kind of run another play and throw it in there, but if you really want to be multiple and be able to run that play from any look against any look, it's very, very hard to keep adding plays to that playbook. And I think that's something we suffered from early in the season, is just trying to do a little too much. We heard people talk about finding an identity. Browns seem to be missing an identity on offense. Well, yeah, there's that mental side of that. There's an emotional side of that, we want to be the physical team and we want to be the aggressor and that kind of thing. And that's all well and good. But I think it also has an impact on the learning, the teaching and learning that happens for these players to just, again, be able to get a hat on a hat, right? Even if we aren't the most physical team on the field and we can't just knock the other team off the ball, if you got to learn all this stuff because you don't have an identity, right? That's a lot harder than if we say, okay, we're only running counter and power. That's all we run. Now all of a sudden your job just got that much simpler. And now you're able to do that job better with different teammates around you and against different defenses that you might be able to see. So anyway, Browns fans, that's it for me. Hopefully this made sense and illustrated kind of how trying to run too many plays can actually have a negative effect on the offense. It takes away from practice time. It takes away from chemistry. And it makes it harder to execute on the field. And in my opinion, again, that's the number one thing that we need to improve on, is just being able to understand our assignment, to be able to go do that assignment, play it hard, play it fast. Because, the Browns, we're not a perfect team, but we're good enough. The talent that we have in Berea is good enough to win football games if we can just get the right players in their assignments and teach them what they need to do. That's it for me. Make sure to tune in to dogsbynature.com for all your Cleveland Browns news and analysis. I'm Rufio. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.